Oh, so much crap. Will you shut up? Perfect. What's up guys, it's Eric from Late to the Game Outdoors and doing a quick gear dump here as I prepare to leave in just a few days for over-the-counter archery Coues deer hunting in Arizona. I've been literally dreaming about this. Like last night had some weird dream. The premise was I was bow hunting Coues deer and then like, I don't know, there's like a cow llama deer hybrid that showed up. It was weird. It probably means I should go to a therapist. But just wanted to kind of run through my kit, what I'm working with for a 5-day, so 4 nights, backcountry, heading 3.5-ish miles from where we park the trucks, get away from some people, and if it's anything like last year, just get into tons of deer, tons of bucks. I cannot wait. So let's just kind of work our way through and clear space as we go. Let's start with clothing. Why not? It's right here. All First Light stuff because it has served me well. So on the base layer front, I've got the Kiln zip-off bottoms. These suckers, just whoever invented the zip-off thing, thank you. Because the amount of times I've had to try to kick off my boots, take off my pants, take off my base layer, get the pants back on, all while not like stepping on cactus thorns in the desert. The ability to just drop trow, unzip, and then pull it all back together, heaven. Love that. Up top, actually run the Wick hoodie as my base layer, because highs are really only supposed to get into the 50s, but you never know. And that something about that Arizona sun, it just, when it hits you, it's intense. So I may find myself just wearing this at some point, especially if we're packing meat out. But then I also run up to the Kiln quarter zip that I wear over that. Most likely I'll have both these on pretty much the whole time. And then those bottoms will kind of come and go as needed. Real helpful on a cold glassing morning, but then you can ditch them when it gets a little warm. On top of that, this year I'm taking with me the Corrugate Foundries. A little bit thicker, a little bit tougher. It's not the worst cat claw and brush and nastiness I've ever experienced in Coues country, but it's there. So last year just kind of wore slightly thinner pants, didn't work out so well. Going a step above in durability. Over the top of all that, when it comes to being cold, I've got the Sawtooth Hybrid jacket, which actually just started using this thing last year. Really, really like it. It's another kind of tight, snug merino layer, and it's got like, it's thicker around the torso, so it's almost like a built-in vest, but still has sleeves, which we've all wanted that before. Another cool layer, and then the outer shell, the Uncompahgre, can never say that right, puffy jacket, which is not waterproof, but is water resistant enough, or at least moisture wicking enough. So I honestly don't run rain gear. Again, I hunt in Arizona. We don't have a ton of rain, but I ran this system in Spring Bear in Idaho, where half of our hunt was rained out. And basically I look at it like this can stand up to a moderate drizzle. Doesn't get wet. I've never been wet inside of it. And if it's worse than that, I'm probably just gonna like hide out and ride the storm out in my shelter. Because if it's so bad that this is gonna get soaked, I'm probably not sitting there glassing because the deer are most likely hunkering down anyway. So I saved some weight on the rain gear and just run that. Socks are an important part. I run the Mercury lightweight sock. Love the compression fit. It does not sag or slide around. And honestly, my method, this is probably a little gross, and actually these are a little gross because I haven't washed them since my last hunt. I will, don't worry. I just bring 2 pairs with me and I cycle them, one after the other, like just rotate. In a perfect world, maybe when I stop to get water, I'd like rinse them out and dry them, at least the pair that's not on me. Most times that doesn't actually happen. I just alternate them. And I will take the day's socks that I just wore getting set for bed in my tent, and I'll throw them down in my sleeping bag with me. The body heat dries them out. I used to like make a little clothesline and like hang them in my tent. and always felt like they never really got dry. Honestly, probably because they're just sitting up at the top point where like all my breath and condensation is trying to build all night. So since I started throwing them in my sleeping bag, they are just bone dry every morning. I just try to change them to keep the funk from getting too nasty all over my feet. And I also always bring just one pair of, these are like the Zero sock, I think, like super thick wool cold weather sock. I hate wearing these in my boots. They are not compression fit, they sag, they bunch. Hate that more than anything. But I love, these just live in my tent. And so at night when I'm like settling in, I will swap to these, which have been sitting in the tent. They're nice and dry, keep my feet warm all night. So yes, I bring a pair of specific sleeping socks and it works out well. Other little things, you know, kiln beanie, just basic simple little wool gloves. These will at least take the edge off. First thing in the morning, it's supposed to be like mid-30s-ish. You know, they aren't everything you need in a glove, but they're like 80% of what I need in Arizona. So I just run these, and actually the touchscreen finger stuff works pretty well. It's not perfect, but it's surprisingly effective to check your maps and all that stuff. And then, you know, I'll probably have a baseball hat. I also have been bringing along this bucket hat, which I think looks ridiculous, but is actually like heaven in the sunlight. When you're glassing, it just kind of creates like this tunnel to look through, and it makes it so my wife doesn't scream at me every time I come home with a sunburned neck and ears. So that is everything I'm wearing. Sleep system right over here, the Nemo Tracker 2-person. My buddy has the 1-person. It works fine for him. This honestly works great for me. I don't know how I'd fit a 2nd person in there really, unless I wanted to spoon. But I keep the tent, the poles and stakes separate, just in terms of how I pack up my pack. Then the Nemo Tensor insulated pad, which I got the long wide version, which was a game changer. My first pad was just regular size, which I'm 6'1", 200-ish pounds, not huge, but big enough. And I felt like all night I was battling the normal size pad just to try to stay on it. If I laid on my back, like my arms would just be hanging off the side. So switched out to that tall, long, wide, whatever. It's heaven, love it, I would never go back. And Big Agnes AXL air pillow, just buy it. Okay, just throw it in your pack. It's so small, it weighs nothing, and it is so much more effective than a balled up jacket. Especially, I'm a side sleeper, and so like getting enough support under my head, I could never get enough layers bunched up properly. And so adding this, usually then I like throw my jacket on top of it or something to get a little more support. It's changed how I sleep out there. Oh, another key component of the sleep system, sleeping bag, Kelty. Which one is this? I already forgot. It has a name. I'll find it. All right, that's why God invented lower thirds. This is the Kelty, whatever that name says. It's a 20-degree mummy bag. It has worked well. So I've had this thing down into the 20s, though I run a liner if it's gonna get that cold. So right now, keeping an eye on the weather. It looks like it's only gonna get to like 33 maybe at the lowest. So I probably won't bring the liner to save a little weight, little space, and that should work with a couple layers on. Because 20 degrees is, you know, the survivability rating, not exactly the comfort rating. So I'll run that. I'll also, these are just the hand warmers, toe warmers, which I'll talk about. But I usually bring at least a couple of like the big size hand warmers. I don't want one for every night. That's just extra weight I don't need to mess around with, but I'll bring 1 or 2 so that if weather does take a turn or just morale is getting low, just throwing one of those in the bottom of the sleeping bag makes a lot of difference. Though these toe warmers I just discovered on my last hunt. Not perfect, but pretty good. So I get a lot of cold foot, like especially in the toe issues on cold hunts, especially this style where you're just sitting and glassing, you're not moving around. So these things I just bought really because they were out of the regular hand warmers and I was trying to keep my boys warm on a hunt I just did with them. But pretty cool. I would say, based on my experience, let these suckers warm up and then there's like an adhesive backing. You can just, you know, throw them, stick them down in the toe bed of your boot, and then slide your feet in there. I found just by like opening them up, shaking them, throwing them in there, it took the edge off, but they didn't really get warm just because there wasn't a lot of room for airflow or oxygen. And then once I pulled them out, they heated up like crazy. I wouldn't want to hike around with them because it's just like a lump under your feet, but for sitting there on the side of a mountain glassing, these suckers are perfect. So I'm gonna bring some of these as well, because they're smaller and lighter. Okay, water. The Katadyn Hiker pump filter. I ran the squeeze systems for a long time. You can't get more lightweight or simple than that, but man, it's a pain to fill up and squeeze and all that. Just the speed at which I can just pump and refill all my water with this made the extra size and weight worth it in my mind. I also run a 3-liter platypus bladder and I'm bringing just the 1-liter Nalgene. I also have the 1.5 that I bring sometimes, depending on the style of hunt. In this particular case, I'm actually probably also gonna carry 2 gallons. So just a gallon jug in each hand, bow strapped to the pack to get to camp. We should have 97% chance we've got water just below camp. It's not that far of a drop, but it's in Arizona, desert hunts, there's always that small percentage chance that you don't have water. And also, man, last year we were there for about the same amount of time, maybe a day longer. And I hauled in 2 gallons plus, you know, the 4 liters in my pack. And I had to drop down for water once. Just dropped down, refilled everything, hauled it back up to camp. And that was it, got us through. Man, I love that. Not having to like go get water every day, but you can focus on just getting to your glassing point, scanning around. It's perfect. Like I said, carrying the bow on the pack, so this is just the bow holder that goes on my EXO, which, now's a good time to mention that. All of this is going in my EXO that actually I can't really even talk about just yet, so I'll show you like this much just to see the logo. It is an EXO pack. It's a 5,000 volume. I can't wait till I can talk more about it. They made some changes that are just incredible. I wouldn't have even thought of them, but since they made them, I thought, yes, that's perfect. Should have always been that way. Love this pack, can't wait to talk more about it. But it's more than enough space for a 5-day hunt, piece of cake. Food, water, we talked about water. Jetboil, I run just the Jetboil Zip. It's the smaller one. It doesn't have the auto start. You gotta have a striker, or I just use a Bic lighter and just get a spark and away it goes. But boils 16 ounces of water, which is plenty for any meal that I make, and I just like the slightly smaller footprint. This is a 20-liter Sea to Summit dry bag. Hang all the food. It's January in not like excellent bear country, so it shouldn't be a problem, but it just always feels better to hang your food, not deal with rodents or anything trying to come in. This is not even really loaded up. This is actually already a half-eaten bag from my last hunt, because I'm notoriously bad at really cleaning out my pack between hunts. But I'm gonna have 5 full day bags, all my peak refuels. I love these things. Actually, this one, the homestyle chicken and rice, it's delectable. I would eat this on a regular day if I wanted to. It's so good. But typically I don't do like big complicated hot breakfast. I usually make a cup of coffee to warm up, and then everything else is pretty much water-free, a bunch of bars, Pop-Tarts, you know, try to have some natural stuff, but there's plenty of junk that makes it in here as well. But then I can always look forward to a nice hot meal back at camp, which is gonna be great. Kill kit, the Argali High Country pack. These are just incredible game bags, washable, reusable. Honestly, for a Coues deer, I could probably just bring 2 or 3 and it'd be more than enough. But I usually just keep all 5 bags together. You never know. We use them for signaling when we're hunting in teams up there. Someone may need to borrow one. It's just, they weigh nothing, so why not bring the whole thing? Tucked inside, the Argali Serac, can't pronounce it, but super cool ultralight knife. And I bring just the little portable work sharpener, because this blade holds an edge just fine, but you know, usually end up touching it up once, maybe twice, depending on the size of the animal. Just, you know, it hits that point where you can tell it's starting to get dull, and the lazy parts of you want to just keep going, and you realize you're liable to cut yourself real bad if you do. So stop for a few seconds, touch up the edge, it's great. Oh, and a big contractor bag to work on. Again, Coues deer are super small, but it is backcountry, we got camp and everything. If we get something down, probably gonna bone it out anyway, just to save the weight. And so having a nice clean surface you can do that on is perfect. What else is over here? InReach Mini. We are definitely in a spot with no cell service, so this keeps my wife from worrying that I've died. I am a big believer in wipes in the backcountry as opposed to TP. Sometimes I bring both just to, you know, get things started with the TP and clean it up with the wipes. This is getting graphic, but if there's one thing I don't want when I'm putting miles on my boots, it is dirtiness and chafing. So big believer in these, even use them like settling into the tent. I'll take a quick, you know, wipe down of some key areas just to keep the funk from getting too bad. Then first aid pouch, just, you know, miscellaneous, whole bunch of stuff. Your typical little bottle of Gold Bond, never hurts based on what we were just talking about. But everything I need is in here. Toothbrush, chapstick, one of like 4 lighters that is scattered throughout my pack. In my case, camera gear is a big part of it, so the main camera, looking at right now. Also always bring a GoPro, because it's just the simple, like, worst case, you like throw it down, point it at what you want, you're gonna get a usable shot. Always bring the head mount as well, because you just never know how a situation's gonna unfold. So if I'm stalking in on a deer, I'll have the main camera, and as long as glare isn't gonna be an issue with this thing on my head, I'll throw the head mount on to get that like POV shot, and it's at least a safety shot. So it's insanely hard to stalk within bow range of a deer anyway, especially a Coues deer, but to do it with the main camera and get that trained on him while you're shooting, I sort of look at the head mount as the safety shot. Like if everything goes wrong and I don't get anything in the main camera, I can at least in post use what I got on the head mount, and it'll work. ND filter, again, that Arizona sun is gonna be very necessary most of the day. You know, SD cards, little remote shutter buttons, which when you're self-filming and self-photoing, makes all the difference. A bag that I keep a lot of, you know, spare batteries, cords, all that stuff gets thrown in here. And that's the whole camera side. I try to keep it as minimal as possible. I only just bring one lens. It just makes it simpler. It covers most of what I need. And then I will, for like long range animal shots, I'll digiscope that, which we'll get into now. Hey, look, it's different. Okay, glassing, massively crucial part of Coues deer hunting. It's real. I rarely try to say it's the only way to hunt something, but man, I don't know a lot of stories of people who haven't used spot and stalk and relied heavily on their glass to harvest a Coues deer. It's also the part that trips a lot of guys up. Guys who are really great glassers, really successful hunters, come to try to hunt Coues deer for the first time, and it's different. It's a struggle. They are so tiny. They're called the gray ghost for a reason, because they just blend in so well, and they just disappear behind stuff. Like, they're shorter than most of the brush they feed on, so they can just disappear in a second. But that being said, it doesn't change my glassing setup all that much. A lot of guys will move to 12s or 15s or something like that for Coues. Personally, I stick with what I use for a lot of things, and maybe we'll talk about the spotter in a second. But for binos, I'm bringing my trusty Razor 10x42s. Love these things. Honestly, the best glass I've ever looked through. I like the wider field of view, pick up motion, and then, you know, lean into the scope to really take a look at what I'm seeing. But I just like tripod mounted with this guy, and that is another huge thing. A lot of guys maybe prefer the freehand style, and I know it can be a pain to like set up in it, especially if you move from spot to spot to set up with the tripod. Man, movement is the key to finding Coues deer a lot of the time. So highly recommend tripod glassing. And it's sitting in my marsupial gear pouch, range finder, which is nothing really special. It's an old Vortex Ranger 1000, but it's doing the job. Wind checker, license lives in there, all that stuff. For the tripod, running the Vortex Summit Carbon 2 with a Wiser Precision Nighthawk head on it. So this tripod actually comes with its own super small, light tripod head. Honestly, this one it's a couple ounces lighter. It's not crazy in terms of weight savings. The reason I swapped it out, honestly, was because of the design of the Vortex tripod head. This big, tall knob right here is fine for glassing, like the adapter fits in, no big deal. But when I try to slide my camera into the tripod, which on a backcountry hunt, I bring one tripod and it does dual duty for glassing and for filming. I could not, this knob won't turn. It's like hits the camera. So had to swap it out for, wanted to get the lightest possible head with a flush turning knob. It's probably a better term for that. And this has worked great. It's been pretty stable for a really lightweight setup, and I will have to look up and I'll put below the total weight of this package, but it is about the lightest you can do in a solid, durable tripod. I love it. So, spotter. Most of the time on a backcountry hunt, I'll bring my small spotter, which is the Vortex, I think it's a Razor, but it's the 11 to 33 straight model. It's just super small, super lightweight. Normally I would do that, except when it's Coues deer. So because these things, again, are just so tiny, so hard to find, I'm gonna go for the big scope. This is the Vortex Razor UHD 65 millimeter with a 30 to 60 eyepiece on it. It's just, these deer are so small, so easy to lose, so tough to find. That having the ability to really reach out and see a little bit further is going to be worth the extra pound or so that going with this scope is going to require. Plus, again, it's only 3.5-ish miles to where we're camping. It's not that far. If we were looking at a 6 or 7 mile trip, I might consider, even with Coues deer, the smaller scope, but this is going to work great for what we're doing. All right, for digiscoping, I mentioned that, which is sort of film stuff, but sort of glass stuff, so it ended up in this pile. I've been using the Scope Cam adapter, which is a little bit lesser known, but what made me go with it was that it is, instead of having to have a separate eyepiece for every piece of your glass, it is adjustable and will fit on virtually any optics you would want to attach it to. So you just kind of twist this and these little like teeth clamp down on anything. So since I have 2 scopes I run, sometimes I want to get some footage straight through the binos. Having just the one piece that would work for everything was real appealing, and it's been pretty good. It's pretty quick to deploy. I've probably only had a couple of animals over the last year where by the time I got it set up, they had disappeared and I didn't get the footage, but for the most part, it's been great, and the footage it gets is terrific. Lines up real great just about every time. Also in the glassing or miscellaneous pile, the dad pad. It's not the official name. If you search that on Amazon, I don't think this will come up, but just a little something for my old butt as I sit on hard desert ground and rocks. And then the trekking poles. These are Black Diamond. Forget the model, I can put it down below here. But the aluminum ones that, yes, add a little bit of weight versus the carbon ones. I just like how sturdy they feel. The carbon I know is plenty sturdy, but these just feel a bit stronger, especially if I'm coming out heavy. Me plus the pack is a lot of weight leaning on these things, and these haven't bent or warped or slipped. Like, they do great. So I'll hike in with these strapped to the pack, because again, I'm carrying water. On the way out, I'll have dumped all that water, everything strapped to the pack, and just rock these to make things just that much simpler and safer coming out. That is it. That's essentially everything to hunt, survive, film, 5-day backcountry Coues hunt. And really, it's a lot of stuff. There's not a lot that changes in my gear setup from hunt to hunt. Maybe save for a few layers or swap out some different pieces of glass or something. So if you got any questions on any of this gear, I've got tons of time in the field with it, and I'll shoot you straight on what works and what doesn't, or what I like or what I don't. If you want to see some of the gear in action, I'll throw a couple hunts over here that you could check out. And if you'd be so kind to, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff that helps keep the algorithm happy, I'd really appreciate it. And until next time, see you guys later.